So in Italy, where there's a big family understanding, Italy's our biggest export market for McGargles, okay? But if we go across to the UK, Sonia, they can't pronounce it, right? So if someone can't pronounce your brand and they don't get it, well then what's the point? So to this day, we don't sell McGargles in the UK.
The Architects of Business, with EY Entrepreneur of the Year, telling the inspirational stories behind Ireland's most successful entrepreneurs.
Hello and welcome to The Architects of Business, made in partnership with EY Entrepreneur of the Year, where you will hear the inspirational stories of some of Ireland's most successful entrepreneurs. I'm Sonia Lennon, broadcasting remotely from my home at this time. And on this week's show, I chat with Tom Cronin, director of the Rye River Brewing Company, one of Ireland's biggest craft brewery success stories and home of the ever-popular McGarrigles brand. He talks to me about the power of early mentorship and the challenges and opportunities of COVID. If you haven't already done so, hit subscribe to get brand new episodes into your feed. Tom Cronin, Rye River Brewing Company, thank you so much for joining us today on Architects of Business. Your story is one of twists and turns, like all good entrepreneurs and all good entrepreneurial companies. What I'd love to start with, because we do this with everybody, is to go back to the beginning, to little Tom, and ask you a little bit about, I suppose, how you ended up so firmly set in this sector. What was the beginning of that?
I suppose the beginning, Sonia, goes back to maybe when I was 15 or 16 years of age, getting a part-time job in a local hotel. I'm from North Cork originally, Charleville. There was a great hotel in its day, the Deer Park Hotel, and I was fortunate enough to get a job there at 16. I got a bug for the hospitality industry, I think, and that's probably where it all started. You know, I got a sense of where people's skills come from. I got a sense of what hard work looks like. It was one of these enigmas that, you know, did 400 meals with carvery on a Sunday, yet had 300, 400 people in a ballroom nightclub on a Saturday and Sunday night. And it just was an exciting time for a young man. A few pounds in my pocket, so I probably got an appreciation for the value of money at a young age as well. And it served me all the way through college, you know. I went on through college to work in the hospitality industry as well. Tell
us a little bit about that, because I know that, you know, that great entrepreneurial spirit was at play very early on through your college years.
Yeah, so look, I was always looking for, not an angle, but for example, when I was in university, I became clubs officer for 2 years. And that led me to sitting on boards and sitting on many entities probably that I wouldn't normally get exposed to. So you're picking up experience, sometimes subconsciously and subliminally, you know, and all these things help you, I think, further in life, and you can take from them. I suppose in minute, through being clubs officer, I went for a job for a student rep for Heineken. When it was okay to have on-campus representatives for drinks entities, you know, and I did that for 2 years. And
I'd say that made you a popular human, Tom.
Yeah, back then it was great. You know, I got a few quid every week. I had access to a corporate brand at a very young age in college, and you know what, many things spiraled off it. I DJ'd for a while in college as a result. I was clubs officer. I was playing sports. It was a great time. But it all fueled that desire to stay in hospitality if I could, or stay in an industry that allowed me engage with people, you know, be interactive with consumers, and look, just a very exciting time that, you know, probably to the detriment and demise of my mother, because I actually was doing a HDip in education at this stage. I was back and forth to the US any opportunity I got during those summers. So I did a J1, and then I went back and overstayed my visit in the second year. Then they opened up J2s. I went back again, and even on my fourth year, I went back, and I stayed for maybe 4 or 5 weeks because you know, I just loved the States. And I came home and I said, "Ma'am, you know, I'm going working with Heineken. So Heineken had offered me a role straight from college, and I grabbed it with both hands. You know, that was a day that I remember my mom going, "Are you sure you don't want to be a teacher? You know, the stability of it and everything." And you know, you've just spent the last 4 or 5 years, you know, getting your degree. And I was like, "Look, we'll see. I can always come back to teaching." And I think that's that's the that's what's brought me to where I am. You know. That,
And can I ask you, because the one thing that, through these interviews with Architects of Business, and through talking to all the EY Entrepreneur of the Year alumni, there are kind of pivotal moments. And quite often it is that early exposure to a sector that ingrains it in you, So whether that is, whatever, whether it's agriculture or hospitality or technology, um, why did you take that job? Was it circumstance? Was it just that the hotel was on your doorstep and it was a job available, or was there hospitality in your background?
So there's not hospitality. Yes and no. My dad worked in the retail trade for 55 years for the same employer, and would have been highly regarded and well known throughout North Cork for his ability to engage with people and bring people in and make them feel special. And I probably grew up with that. My dad in the early 70s would have been a fixer for ballroom dancers. So, you know, he certainly had, you know, a very shy man in many ways, but it's obviously in me somewhere that there's this drive.
Hang on. I have to ask, a fixer for ballroom dancers.
So he would have arranged back in the early, I'm assuming the 60s and early 70s. My dad booked bands for what was the Deer Park Hotel in a different location in Charleville. I only found this out later in life. You know, I was born in 1975, so pre my arrival. But
yeah,
you know, and to this day, my dad, who's now 83, loves organising Irish nights in a local pub, and he'll get 10, 12 musicians together, and they'll do a song, they'll do you know, a bit of poetry. I'll go down every so often, I'll sing a song, you know, and at 83 he still has it. So you know, it was obviously in me. But to answer your question, I came across this job because I was eager to get a few pounds in my pocket at a young age and be independent. And I was very fortunate to meet someone along the way, a lady called Rosarie Sheehan. And you talk about mentors in life, and we're very fortunate within the alumni group to have such a wealth of knowledge and people who really care and will always look out for you. But at 16 years of age, I met a lady who was just the enigma of hospitality. And you know, I just looked at this woman. As people walked through the door, they became the most important guest in that hotel. And I realized, okay, the key to success largely in life is how you treat people. And I've lived by that rule right through my life. You know, wherever I can, I deal with the person in front of me and treat them with the respect they deserve and make them feel the way they should. And it served me well, you know. So people.
What an important lesson.
Yeah.
What an important lesson to learn so early. You were gifted that, no doubt about it. So now we know where the ENS officer gene came from. It came from your father. So you know, you've bitterly disappointed your mother by not deciding to become a teacher. You're hopping back and forth on your transatlantic travels. What happened next?
So I was doing my HTIP exams in education, and I was, as I said, student officer or Heineken representative on campus, and clubs officer, and a position came up in North Leinster, based out of Navan. I'm currently in Maynooth. Haven't really lived in Charleville since my leaving cert in 1994, so I didn't have any ambitions to head home for the summer. I'd actually lined up a job in Cloister-Breed, an all-girls school in Clondalkin, so my path was laid out, and Heineken asked me would I interview for a role, and I said yeah, certainly. So I was interviewing actually throughout my exams, and I finished my last exam in education on the Saturday, and I started a full-time role with Heineken on the Monday. I'll never forget it. Up to the Arboyne Hotel in Navan. Met my then boss, Jerome O'Donovan, regional manager at the time, and I got a Ford Mondeo and a buzzer, because there was no laptops back then, and a fax machine, and and
Oh,
that
mod cons.
all mod cons for a 21-year-old, So I was like, my God, have I landed, But I got the best experience ever in drinks and understanding business over the next few years with that particular team and that company. Insofar as they were building a territory, it was a dominant territory for another lager brand in Ireland at the time, and we had a tough job to get market share. It required a huge amount of hard work, late nights, but had some great fun along the way. We picked up sponsorship rights for the Slane festivals. So at a young age, I'm living the dream in one way,
Big
and
time.
and my career progressed quite quickly within Heineken because I was eager. I was okay. Well, it wasn't the entrepreneurial road at that point, but I had the desire to try and make a name for myself within a big entity like Heineken. And they were unbelievable at supporting that desire to be better and so I got immersed into how to build brands the right way from a very early age as well.
And that's what I was going to ask you. So that foothold in a global corporation must have been very, very powerful in terms of when the entrepreneurial bug did hit.
Absolutely. So, I'm in drinks, and over the next 6, 7 years, I did a myriad of roles for Heineken in managerial and ended up in brands, specialty brands at the time. And along the way, in companies, PLCs like that, you're getting nurtured, you're getting trained, you're getting immersed in meetings and process that it's like a fast track MBA, and I maybe that was my MBA in drinks and brands without knowing it. So I found myself, a few years later then having to move west just for life choice. I currently live in the west of Ireland in Carrick and Shannon. And at that point, parted ways with Heineken because I felt that I had really had a great 6, 7 years, but I had a bug to do something different. And that was when I probably realized I'm never going to settle. I'll always be looking for something new and different. And there's nothing wrong with that. Again, heart failure from my mum because I'm really well established in a great global company. And I'm saying, actually, ma'am, I'm going again. So that brought me to the west of Ireland and back into hospitality.
So what did that look like at that stage?
So that looked like setting up an entity called Northwest Bars Limited with a brother-in-law of mine, and over the next 5 years, we opened a lot of bars in Ireland, and it brought me back across the Atlantic to Denver, Colorado, where we had the largest Irish pub in downtown Denver, 550-seater restaurant, became the largest purveyor of Guinness within 12 months of opening. And a really exciting journey, but wear and tear 5 years later. It also included a nightclub in Sligo, bars in Letterkenny, so it was a crazy time. But again, you're just absorbing and learning and taking in everything, and more importantly, you're still dealing with people, hospitality. It was just a great time.
I mean, listening to you, Tom, it sounds like a snap decision overnight. All of a sudden, you have a chain of pubs. I'm sure it wasn't like that.
No, it wasn't.
And it must have been. It must have been an absolutely brave new world stuff at the time to go from being an employee into being the creator. What was the aha moment?
I think the aha moment was realizing that consumer trends were really changing, and there was a movement where people were looking to savor a little more, and it continues today. If anything, I think COVID-19 has really brought that to the fore again. And Molson Coors had just acquired the Franciscan Well Brewery in Cork, one of the longest established independent breweries, set up by Shane Long, great guy. And there was a realization, okay, the industry's changing. So do I stay where I am and build it for someone else, or do we take a chance and go at craft beer ourselves? And that's what we did. So June 13, July 13, maybe I gave my notice, and by October 1st or October 31st, we had an office in Kilcock, and I was in there figuring out what we would do to get a brand movie in Ireland.
And how clear was your collective vision at that stage? Because obviously you'd been informed by, big corporate sort of visions before that. Were you going big from the get-go?
Well, Niall and Alan had very big visions, to be fair, and I bought into it as well. To answer that, our logo on the back of our T-shirt back in 2000 and late 13 or 14, the first polo shirts we got embroidered was the best little brewery in the world, right? So is that bold? Absolutely. Is it ambitious? Yes, because there's 63 other craft breweries in Ireland when we set up. We have no brew house. We have a concept for a brand that's quirky and different, and yet our ambition is to be the best little brewery in the world. So the ambition was definitely big. Was the roadmap planned out and locked down? No, because I don't think you can ever have that. But the ambition was certainly there. Last year we became crowned the most decorated independent craft brewery in the world at the 2019 World Beer Awards. So maybe sometimes you need that big ambition to see it through. And I believe last year that Rye River hit that goal and ambition. So yes,
absolutely
the ambition was
right. I think it needs to be. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to have a little chat about the twists and turns that came from there on in.
Yeah, great.
Tom Cronin, Rye River Brewing Company. You've set up this vision, you have your ambition, three guys, gung-ho. The early years of that, what did it look like?
Look, it was manic, Sonia. Unbelievable hard hours, a lot of fear, and all the anxiety that goes with cash flow management, and everything that any entrepreneur will tell you they have to go through. It was no different for Rye River Brewing Company.
But you hit a crux, right? You hit a point where the success wasn't heading in the right direction, right?
Yeah, so we came in with an ambition to be the best little brewery in the world, and rightly or wrongly, we took on agency brands, and I'm going to say lost focus. I'm not going to say intentionally lost focus, but we got more distracted with someone else's brand than our own business, and along the way, took poor decisions in terms of investing into markets maybe that were just beyond our reach for such a young brand. And it led us into a bit of difficulty in 2016. We'd scaled up very quickly, and mid 2016 we had taken in a round of investment, and by October we realized that okay, this isn't enough. Something's got to change. So without getting into the murky details of it, by January 17, I was the only remaining founder left, and realized, okay, we've got to change everything here, and that's what we started doing.
So enough about the problems. Let's talk about the solutions and what came out of that reshuffle. Apart from the human element, you found yourself then in the driving seat with a sort of a restructured organization. What were your focus points there at this time where you knew that focus was critical?
So the first thing was, I suppose, to go back to our ambition, which was to be a really credible craft brewery in Ireland, independent, standalone, with a clear focus and goal. So in 2017, in January 2017, set about putting in a new senior leadership team. So empowered myself with really great people, some of them who were already in the business, put in a really good board with experience, got lenders on side, because it's inevitable that there's that moment when you have to go back to your lender and say, I need you to help us out here again, and there's a bit of pain in that for everyone. So it was really getting back then a 5-year plan and a vision to say, look, we can deliver this. We believe we have the brands, we believe we have the people, and that doesn't happen overnight. You've got to get confidence with everyone around you. So you're asking individuals to back you and your vision, and yet you're in very murky waters. So it takes months and years really to build that trust back up. So 17, by the end of 17, we'd gone from heavy loss making in 2015 and 14, 15, and 16 to making profit on an EBITDA line within 12 months. Now, by doing so, we took really tough decisions. We got rid of all agency brands amicably. Again, which was a huge distraction and challenge at the time, because you're in contractual agreements with multinational brands, and you're trying to unravel those. But it worked. So 17 was a really, really tough year, but a defining year for the business, because we grew market share domestically. We grew market share in export markets for our own brands. At this point, we had a portfolio of brands between McGargles and our exclusive retailer brands. So we have Crafty Brewing Company that we do for Lidl. We have Solus, which we exclusively do for Tesco. Grafters for Dunn Stores, and we were doing really well. We were becoming very focused in terms of quality and consistency, which I've always maintained. Brands bring people into a liquid, irrespective of who you are, and whether you're a Heineken or a Guinness or Carlsberg. The branding is there to entice you in to trial. It's the liquid that brings you back for repeat purchase. So our core focus in 17 was restructure the business, refocus, and the biggest focus needed to be on quality and consistency and process. And that's what's led us to the success I believe we've had over the last few years.
And what were the key lessons then around branding? Because regardless, if you're in business, or if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're even interested in business, that everybody needs to think about branding, even if you're an individual at this stage. So what were the takeouts?
So we had to realize that while we had a very quirky brand in McGargles, for example, it was a bit of Marmite. Not everyone got it. It's based on a dysfunctional Irish family. It was disruptive back in 2013, 2014. I think it was a bit tired by 2017. So we engaged an agency, and we said, okay, look, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because it was doing really well in Ireland, but it was just a bit too far quirky for me and for the team around me. And we tried to bring quality hues into the signage and the branding, and I think that worked. So we took, I think we had 32 different messages on our label at the time, and we stripped it back to 6 or 7, and we focused in on provenance and quality and awards. So we put a strong brand stamp on it, a defined brand stamp. We put provenance, so Kildare Crafted became one of our sayings. We kept the character, because we had actually launched 2 SKUs along the way when we were trying to fix the business in 17, and we got a lot of backlash from consumers going, where's the characters gone? So we were like, okay, that doesn't work. So we were kind of feeling our way through it, and by the end of 17, in the midst of everything else, we had fixed. When I say fixed, we had addressed brand concerns around McGargles, and we could see the results immediately. More and more people were engaging and accepting it. Look, right now, McGargles is possibly the largest retail brand in Ireland in craft beer. So it's proven that brand work is continuous, Sonia. We'll continuously go back to McGargles and tweak and play with it. And last week we launched 2 new 4-pack NPDs. We're still developing the brand, so it's an endless road when it comes to branding.
And is McGargles a key export brand for you?
Yes, in certain countries. So again, you learn. I mean, I think part of our success over the last few years is our ability to adapt really quickly. I'll give you 2 examples, and it'll probably tie back in here. In 2018, we received a large export order, an opportunity from Lidl to bring the Crafty Brewing Company to 17 countries. And that came to light around October. By November, we had funded through Dunport, our lender to this day, incremental funding to allow us invest in capex and working capital. By January 3rd, we had 6 new tanks in the premises, and by March 31st, we had shipped a huge amount of volume to 17 countries on time, in full, with the highest quality. So that wouldn't happen in big business because there's too many layers of scrutiny and checks. Whereas we put our head down, and for 6 months we really focused on delivering this. Okay, so is McGargles our brand of choice for export? Over the last few years, we've realized that it absolutely resonates and works in some countries. So in Italy, where there's a big family understanding, Italy's our biggest export market for McGargles. Okay, but if we go across to the UK, Sonia, they can't pronounce it, right? So if someone can't pronounce your brand and they don't get it, well, then what's the point? So to this day, we don't sell McGargles in the UK.
I wonder, is McGargles the ultimate matriarchal beer then, is it?
I don't know, but what it did make us realize is we have unbelievable, we brew 32 unique recipes every other week in the brewery. So we're a complex, busy brewery that brews in 2,500 litre batches, small batches. And we realized that we're trying to push water up a hill. It's it's okay to have brands that don't resonate in every country. It's absolutely fine. Yeah. So we've gone with a new approach to the UK, and pre-COVID had just launched a new brand, and it seemed to have been doing very well. But it won't be McGargles, But McGargles will absolutely continue to sell in other European countries. And right now, if I just jump ahead to where COVID has brought us, our market share and our market gains for our brands in Ireland is at an all-time high. Look, we're fortunate to be deemed an essential service, and that became apparent. And look, we took all the necessary steps, and it's been a very tough 12 weeks for everyone in the brewery, or 14 weeks. But what we have realized is McGargles as a brand in Ireland is just going from strength to strength every year. It's market share gains. It's a category leader in craft beer in Ireland, and it's there's nothing wrong with it. When I say there's nothing wrong with it, the brand resonates. People trust it.
Yeah. So how many? So COVID in general has been good to you as a company, but you have a huge facility. Sorry, go on.
No, so COVID has been extremely challenging, and I know not making light of COVID. What COVID did was it made us again go back to that that comment I had about being able to react and being agile. Again, in early March, we sat around the table and we recut our 2020 plan. And our first prognosis was that we were going to drop revenue maybe 20%, because our business is made up of 4 channels, Sonia. We have export business. We have exclusive export business, which is largely around crafty brewing company and contractual volume that goes in at certain times into beer promotions around Europe. Mm-hmm. We have an on-premise business in Ireland, which had 12% growth last year, albeit that it only represented maybe 9% of our overall business. It's a very focused channel that had 4 direct employees working in it. And then we have our retail business. So when COVID came, 2 of our channels for revenue closed down overnight. And you have to be dynamic and react quickly. So, I realized back in early March that whatever hope we had of maintaining some level of profitability this year, we had to keep the business open. So we took COVID really seriously from the very start in terms of social distancing and everything. But we also decided that we doubled down on retail. And all the employees, there's actually 7 employees in Rye River Brewing Company at the moment, currently getting the payment subsidy, because they would not have a job had not we redirected them into other channels. So, for example, our national sales manager for on-trade is now driving a van opening up independent channels in outlets that we've never traded in. So, we adapted, we changed our model. And as a result, you're right, COVID has been kind to Rye River Brewing Company in terms of demand for our beers. But the challenge...
Because you did the right thing, though, because you were ready to move.
Because we reacted, and we reacted swiftly. and we reacted with a bit of courage. And look, I owe a lot of gratitude to all the employees in Rye River Brewing Company, because 8 of them have called to 10 or 12 stores every day throughout COVID, and risked, a lot of their own personal safety, albeit yes, they have PPE. But when we go into a store now, we don't only pull our own brands, because we've realized for the last 10 or 12 weeks that retail has been under huge pressure. So where we can, we not only go in and pull and drag our own stock, but if there's some other brands from competitors out back, and we're asked to help, we help. So, you can only do it with people. So go back to the Deer Park Hotel, and when I was 16 years of age, and realizing the importance of Rosarie Sheehan, and how she made me feel like the most important employee as a 16-year-old. That's resonating with me now. We have a great team, and COVID's been good to me and been good to Rye River Brewing Company, because we have great people.
Can I ask you then, because the best little brewery in the world isn't so little anymore. So how many staff have you got? The facility, obviously, you've spoken a little bit about. This is big business. It's not for nothing that you're here on the EY Entrepreneur of the Year podcast. It's at what point does the best little brewery become one of the big guys?
Well, yes, we have a large volume going through the brewery now. I mean, I'm very comfortable talking. We're selling about 30,000 hectoliters, a year, but we do it in 2,500 liter batches. So it's an enigma. We're busy, Sonia, rather than big, if I could say that. We brew around the clock on a small brew house that allows us to have really consistent, high quality liquid. I'm very fortunate to have an unbelievable brew team of 9 brewers who work 8-hour shifts, who lift 25 kg bags on every shift. There's nothing modern or big about Rye River Brewing Company, other than we're very busy, and we work hard, and volume is not what defines whether you're big or not. I think it's the quality and consistency, and the fact that we work around the clock to keep beer supplied. Look, we're getting bigger, and we'll have to change in time, and we'll have to invest, and there's a plan for that. But I'd say we're busy rather than big.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer, Tom. But as I said, you are big, and you are a member of the Entrepreneur of the Year alumni. That process, it must have been, given that it's only 3 years since you were in crisis, it must have been a phenomenal validation to be part of that process.
It was, and I think I acknowledged that last year in one of the clips. Like it was like being recognized by industry for having tenacity and having a will and a belief, but it wasn't my tenacity. It's not my will. I might be steering the ship, but it's the people around me, Sonia, and that's not cliched. You require people that buy into visions and dreams, and question when they have to question, but ultimately get on board. And I was very fortunate in 2017 to have, as I said, a dedicated team of a senior team around me of 6 or 7 people, a board who bought into the vision, Dunport, and a non-exec in a chair who really understood what we were trying to do. So it's a collective drive. But you're right, the EY acknowledgement certainly was a proud moment for all of us.
Looking forward then, in terms of the drinks industry as a whole, you're facing into a new future now, post-COVID, as a sector. What are the biggest challenges that are faced?
Well, look, the whole world is changing, and social distancing is going to be the norm, So there are certain sectors and industries that certainly will have to adapt more than others. If I take the positive from COVID-19 for a small manufacturing companies like Rye River in Ireland who are fortunate enough to be doing really high-end quality food produce or drink produce. The movement has definitely, the whole world has slowed down over the last 12 weeks, except in essential services, right? But the whole world has slowed down, and we're savoring things more than ever before. One of the big call-outs for me over the last few weeks is the inability to get flour in a shop. Why can't we get flour in a shop? Because everyone now is taking up home baking, they're baking scones, they're slowing down. And that provides opportunity for companies like Rye River Brewing Company, where people are willing to pay more and drink less. So in my particular industry, I believe that craft beer will have a resurgence as a result of the pandemic. I believe that people are savoring the experience, and they're more than happy to sit out back with this glorious weather and have 2 or 3 craft beers, maybe have different ABVs, different taste profiles, and they're willing to pay more for that. But they're savoring the moment, and they may be having their fresh bread that they baked earlier that day, or a cheese board that they've picked up in a local shop. So
Tom, you're making me both hungry and thirsty now at this stage.
so look, does that mean big brands won't do really well? Of course they will, but there's a new discerning audience out there, and we see it in the demand. We've never had greater demand for beers domestically. So there is more and more consumers picking up our products than ever before, and COVID has facilitated that, and yet, look, there's a huge challenge in us trying to satisfy the supply chain, which, I'd like to acknowledge the retailers in Ireland. They've all been very understanding with the demand that's been put on SMEs in Ireland. And fortunately, we've been able to satisfy demand up to now. However, if this weather and demand continues, it'll put challenges on businesses like Rye River Brewing Company,
Just before we leave, I'd love to get a sense of what's in your head in 5 years' time for your fabulous company.
So we currently employ 53 people, Sonia, and it's a hard graft brewery. There's an absolute requirement for us to satisfy future growth and demand, and in return invest. And we're scoping that out at the moment. But our 3-year plan is very ambitious, and it hasn't changed since last year. COVID has certainly thrown us curveballs, and with 2 of our channels now non-eventful in terms of revenue, will certainly make my 3-year plan a little more difficult. But our ambition is to double our profit by 2023, and that's still the goal. Investment is required to do it. But we're taking the right steps. We just closed out a sale leaseback on our premises, and we were very fortunate that had not closed out pre-COVID, but we managed to get it over the line in early March. And so we've just paid down some debt. So we're doing things as we had planned last year. COVID has certainly thrown us a few curveballs, but our plan is still our plan. And we'll tweak it, but our 3-year and 5-year ambition is still very much alive,
I don't doubt it for a minute. Tom Cronin, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, and looking forward to watching your future success.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening and watching The Architects of Business, made in partnership with EY Entrepreneur of the Year. Thanks to the whole team here at Joe, and of course to our entrepreneur, Tom Cronin of Rye River Brewing Company. If you haven't already done so, click subscribe to get new shows directly into your feed.